Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another special episode of Saturday afternoon's main event. If for some known reason, after 4+ years of doing this, you do not know who in the blue hell I am, I suggest you go back to school, go into your local library, get the biggest, and when I say biggest, I'm talking about the size of your belly after chewing down all that mac and cheese on Thursday. The biggest dictionary known to man, preferably Merriam-Webster, and look me up under the word phenomenal. Ladies and gentlemen, it is I, the phenomenal one. Let me be the first to tell you here, happy belated Thanksgiving. I hope you enjoyed the holidays with your loved ones, family, friends, so whatever you may call it. We're naming it here. We're letting you know we hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving. Of course, we're looking towards the end of the year here. But beyond all, I just want to say, because it's actually today, happy Survivor Series Day. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, in about 4 hours, we will be getting chances to sit down and enjoy the one of the last 4 pay-per-views of the year in Survivor Series War Games. Stack show tonight. But before we get to that, of course, it is Saturday afternoon's main event time. But with that being said, you guys know I'm not alone because, of course, I have my co-host, my comrade, my brother from another mother and dimension, the one and only limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun who is not having a hard time holding his alligators down. So without further ado, guys, give me 2 claps. The peep snake.
Woo! Yes, the gatekeepers of another great Saturday afternoon. That is us. And hopefully you didn't chop each other over the turkey. You didn't Ric Flair uppercut somebody over talking over politics or talking over sports or whatever was the case. Maybe you're going to do that tonight, talking about wrestling, because it's a wrestling weekend, just like it was last weekend. And of course, we can't do that without those 3 tenets, the ones that we always talk about. And you know those 3 tenets, you know what they all are. It's always laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. There you go.
Absolutely. But peeps, how did you enjoy your week? Are you feeling okay? Are you getting ready to go today? Just let me know.
A little bit logy, but I'm doing well. All the cooking between the cooking that I did and the cooking that my mother did and all of that. Plus, after all of the eating, we played a bunch of hands of Uno. So that kind of helped digest all of the food. So there you go.
Uno, I thought you were I thought you were a blackjack kind of person. Peeps, you've been around for generations, but you stick to Uno? Jeez, okay. Well then, okay, this is what we do here. But
yes,
beyond all A, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you.
But of course, in the words of one Tony Schiavone, we have a third man. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and fire up the rocket fuel because this is the pizzazz. This is the cornerstone. This is the 4th pillar, 3rd pillar, whatever you may want to call it. Because, of course, our dearest uncle is here with us. Shout out to you, Uncle Triple C. Hope you're enjoying the show right now. But beyond all, progenitor of same, the host of Morton's Law. Ladies and gentlemen, one thing's for certain. You need help in anything in life when it comes down to the needless saying of dark humor, to the needless saying of X-rated humor as well, because we know this gentleman. But this esteemed colleague of ours only gets called upon one way. Pick up that phone, go into that keypad, and dial 411. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Christopher Morton, Mr. 411.
You know, Nate, it's funny you mentioned Uno because on Thursday night, we had some ladies of the night over. We played some strip Uno. You ever done that before?
Did you reverse it or did you make them draw 2 or draw 4?
There was a lot of reversing, if you know what I mean.
Oh, how you doing?
So I just want to know, were the stop signs actually skips or did they actually have to remove a piece of clothing if you had to go ahead and draw one? You know, like I just want to know.
Do not let your children watch the show.
Only with Christopher Morton here on Same, guys.
Yes.
But look, beyond all else, the gang's all here. I feel it's only fair that we can go ahead and get right into today's show. We have a lot to talk about, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Guys, the sound never changed, but the name of it has changed. When you hear the sound, it means it's time for one thing and one thing only. Guys, welcome to Three Rope Talk. All right, then. So look, here's the case in point. We're going to go ahead and get started today with our review of AEW Full Gear. Now, look, peeps, Chris, I just want to know, did you guys love the show? Or like? Because I know love is a strong word.
Love is a strong, love is really strong. Okay, how about this? It wasn't horrible. It wasn't.
That's a first. Look,
No, there's a lot to dissect here on the show, so it's a good thing we have time.
Indeed.
So the thing I like the most, because I want to get that out of the way, because I want to give kudos where kudos is due. After watching, which we'll talk about in a moment, all of the blood we happen to see, the one match that stood out that didn't use blood, that actually had psychology, that actually worked a damn hold. Actually, there was two. You know what? There was two. The opener, of course, involving Darby Allin, who can actually work, as we saw, doesn't need to do all that garbage that he does, and of course, Pac.
Indeed, a great
match.
Yes.
Wrestling match. It's okay.
Yes.
You know, you can do that once in a while on the show. It's okay. You don't have to.
Yes.
But that's not the match I'm talking about. I want to give a standing ovation. Mercedes Moné and Chris Statlander.
Yes.
They worked holds. They understood what they were doing. They didn't try to kill each other. It was a wrestling match. I was really happy with this match. And the finish, surprising, but you guys predicted it. You called it. I wasn't sure. I was on the fence with the finish. But yes, maybe third time will be a charm for Mercedes. But what a match, fellas. Talk about it.
Yes.
Indeed. Funny enough, I remember calling peeps, I think, the day after, the morning of.
Yes. I think it was the next day, yeah.
The next following day, and I told them, you know, we've been asking for this arc in the storyline to happen for Mercedes, where she's now lost her chance at the AEW Women's World Title for a second time. With that being said, there has to be a downfall somewhere. Whether she starts losing the titles, whether she's like, you know what? If I can't win the big one, I might as well not have any titles at all until I can win that one. And she just vacates all those other titles. Whatever the case may be, there needs to be an arc or stepping stone within the storyline for it to be said that, okay, Mercedes is now on her way to being AEW Women's World Champion. But like you said, Chris, I felt that the match was stellar. I felt that the match was great.
It made sense. It made sense.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And that's sometimes something too much to ask for within the world of All Elite Wrestling. So to have that be something that we can genuinely talk about now was great. But beyond all that, I want to go ahead and get to peeps with this one. You know, aside from Big Justice hitting a diamond cutter, which wasn't bad, by the way. let's not talk about that. Let's talk about the AEW National Champion in the world of Ricochet.
Yes.
Peeps, how are we feeling with that?
I think that the whole point of them putting a belt on Ricochet's been in AEW now, what, a year and a half, roughly? And he's had no championships. He's been close a few times in other matches. But I think what they've been doing with Ricochet, as far as how they've been building him, is he's just a prick. He's a geek that just gets under people's skin. And I think that now that he has himself a small faction to look out for him, the fact that now that he has a championship, that's going to build intrigue into whoever takes that belt from him. So I don't necessarily have a problem with him winning that championship. I actually like the championship because it looks like the old NWA National Championship, just with the AEW colors of red and gold. I like the fact that they're going to start putting emphasis on this. It's still too many championships in the company, but I enjoyed how the progression of that Casino Gauntlet match went, as far as who was going to come out, who was going to take on whoever, and won. So yes, I don't have much of a problem with that. As far as the Statlander match that you had talked about a little earlier, I think that is probably the first, if it's not the best match of the show, it was the second best match of the show because I thoroughly enjoyed that match. Just from top to bottom. Psychology, work rate, and the motto that I've always been saying, just like we've all talked about, make it make sense. And that's what they did.
Okay.
Well, the only problem I had with the gauntlet was what's his name came out and said, what was it, Ricochet? When you had Lashley and Benjamin in the ring and they did nothing.
Yes.
But everything Ricochet came out and said was actually true. It was like,
Yeah. He pulled a Chris Jericho from 2008, you know?
What was the point of that? All right, so now we talk about the good. We mentioned 2 matches. We got to talk about the bad. The bad, man. I don't. Now listen, not even talking about Moxley's match here. Moxley's match, I'm expecting that, right? And now again, I was surprised at the finish because I didn't think O'Reilly would beat him again, but he did. And now the fans are like, wait a second, we have to root for this guy? Okay. All right, well, Ruby.
Yeah. Yeah, they were just as stunned. Yes.
Wait, he won again? Okay. They seem really surprised. I mean, they are simple people, so let's be honest. There's not a lot of brain power going on there. But I'm really losing my patience with Kyle Fletcher matches. And I've said this on the show ad nauseum. His lack of understanding the business and what makes sense and how many times you could drop a guy on his head before it just looks straight up fake. Because when he numerously, and Mark Briscoe is guilty here as well. And he knows better. He's been in this business longer. And he's had great matches in his career. Tag team, specifically. Some singles, but mostly tag team. For him to allow Fletcher to just drop him on his head as many times as he does. And then, I mean, there was that spot early in the match where he gave him a brainbuster on the chair, right? Was that the spot or the stairs? Which one?
I think it was on this. It was on the chair.
Right. And then 30 seconds later, Briscoe is back up fighting again. That was ridiculous and insulting. And it happened numerous times in this match where Fletcher now thinks he is Moxley and he's now bleeding like Moxley and it's out of control. Not only is he guilty of that same psychology we talked about, but Ospreay to a degree is as well. Ricochet is to a degree. These guys don't understand what makes a good match, what does not make it look fake. Because they love to do everything, the kitchen sink, you name it, and guys are still kicking out. They need to be better in all those areas. That bothers me a lot when I watch Kyle Fletcher because he's so talented. He is that good. If he could listen, people talk about this, about you're not learning much there. And the people that want to teach, most of them aren't listening to those people that are there that want to teach, right? So people said numerous times, how good would Kyle Fletcher be if he went to NXT and learned how to do things the right way and then went up to the main roster there? And sometimes you have to get out of that system just to be better because sometimes he doesn't know any better. Look, he worked the Indies, he worked Japan, right?
Yeah.
He knows where he's learning from, but he's so talented and he's stuck in that mess and he's got to get out of there. That's the bottom.
You become a product of your surroundings. Yeah. And that's basically what he's doing is absorbing things. For me, the spot in the match that made me throw my hands up, even though I enjoyed parts of the match. I like the match because they have chemistry together. They've had really good matches previously. Was the attempted murder spot where Kyle Fletcher took the screwdriver and put it into the turnbuckle upside down, like through the bottom so that it was sticking up, and then attempted to do the brain buster off the top. Now, what if, God forbid, one of them slipped while they were both on the top rope while that screwdriver was sticking from underneath the top turnbuckle? We would be having a whole completely different discussion here. So that kind of thing has to be checked and turned into a negative on this match because you can have violence, you can have blood, you can have guts, pun intended. It's just the way that it's done, how it's done, and the overarching thing that I've said before, it has to make sense. I like the fact that Fletcher lost the belt based on what the ramifications of Briscoe losing would have been. And I think that because of that, the right result happened. It's just how they got there or getting to that point was what was the struggle to some degree. But it was, for the most part, a decent match. But there were a lot of things in there that made you question the process of how they got to the end.
Just too much garbage. Rich, what do you think?
Now, within me, when I come to go ahead and think about it, I didn't see Briscoe going ahead and winning the title on my bingo card. Genuinely, I hadn't thought that it would have been the case of happening. But in all terms, like you said, it comes to a degree where you're sitting there looking at certain things happening. Like, I feel like AEW is at the height of doing certain moves so much to a degree that they begin to start looking weak, and I hate it. Now, back when you would sit there and you would see somebody from the likes of Too Cold Scorpio doing a move from the top rope, whether it were to be a moonsault or a shooting star press, you would find that in amazement because it wasn't like he was constantly doing it. Of course, yes, Too Cold Scorpio was ahead of his time. He was genuinely one of those high-flying kind of wrestlers that had the agility to do a lot of different flip moves. But when it comes to AEW, moves like a brainbuster are used so much to the point where, like you said, 30 seconds later, Briscoe gets up and you're sitting there like, how does somebody get up from that?
Right. If Austin Aries hits a brain buster in the match is over.
Now, you guys remember a brain buster from a year ago in the likes of Sami Zayn and Gunther, where the brain buster happens on a top rope and it gets sold that it does damage to Gunther, to where we don't even see the brain buster as much in WWE. Now, again, it's not like I'm sitting here highlighting that WWE's better. I'm not doing any of that because WWE is abysmal, especially in this current day and age. But the fact of the matter is that why do so many different moves where it's only just for the pop attraction to sit there and be like, oh my God, he just did that, and then proceed to do something else big about 25, 30 seconds later, and then you're sitting there and you're just like, why is he still getting up? Now you're making me sit there and question my existence and intelligence.
Exactly.
Yes.
But then the worst part is, I'm sorry to cut you off. The worst part is hearing Excalibur having to put this garbage over because it sounds like a mark also in terms of how he calls his matches.
I agree.
I agree. Continue your thought.
No, but beyond all that, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Chris. And that's something that I feel like genuinely, if AEW found a way to clean up on that and they were to be able to sit there and be like, okay, look, too much of this, too much of that, more focus on the in-ring psychology, more focus on the, technical wrestling for those wrestlers that are technical, more focus on the storytelling within the match. I look at that more. You look at certain stars, you know what? I'll put it to you this way. You look at some of the Gargano Cole matches that we were watching some 5-6 years ago. You look at that. You look at the Keith Lee, Dijakovic matches. And you're sitting there, you're looking at that, and as much as there are pop factors and segments within the match, there was so much storytelling within it at the same time. AEW doesn't have much of storytelling. It's mostly just moves. The segments where it's back and forth action constantly, like what we got with All In Texas and Ospreay and Swerve versus the Bucks within that one part of the match where they were going for a full minute, and it ended with Ospreay doing, his move and Swerve going ahead and doing a house call. And those are the things that you do not want to see. If they can clean up on that, I feel as if the product would just be light years ahead.
Because here's the thing, as much as people want to say, oh, we bash AEW all the time. No, we know there are good people in the company. We know there are people that know how to do it the right way. Ricochet should know how to do it the right way. He was in WWE. He learned the right way. But they all have bad habits. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is the main event here. And the third guy that has the bad habits too, who we saw at the end of the show, Swerve Strickland, who always gets himself hurt, right? Because he has those same bad habits. The match itself. So, Nate, when we talk about a steel cage match, right? Yes. The history of the business, when we talk about the Dusty, the Flairs, all the great steel cage matches that we have seen.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but when the steel cage match started back then, was someone bleeding within 3 minutes? Because I felt like this match, there's no build to the blood. They just started bleeding right away. Why? What is that about?
Yeah, it's crazy in the sense that there used to be a tier of protection of certain aspects of a wrestling match where you would, let's say, I give you, for instance, For all of those that talk about there are too many chops and super kicks in the wrestling business, there used to be a tier of protecting certain moves. Whereas if Flair's psychology of using the chops, if he chopped somebody early, usually it didn't work. Why? He didn't wear the opponent down enough for it to do any damage. As the match went on, certain things happened, he would do that. Same thing for a cage match. There are degrees of wearing somebody down so that when you get to the cage, the first thing, everybody pops the first time somebody goes head first into the cage. And the reason why is there's always that possibility somebody's going to get busted open. If it happens before there's a build, what's the point? It's like, somebody's going to use a fireball. You have to build up to the use of the fireball, to build up to the reason why you're going to use that weapon that's in the match, in the cage, or whatever is going to be the case. You have to work to that. And if there is no build, it's like, well, what's the point? And that's part of the problem with having a cage match where, like, Moxley would get into a cage and all of a sudden he's bleeding before he even gets in the ring. It's like what happened with Sandman. He bust himself open with a beer can, but that was part of his tradition of coming to the ring, his ritual, coming into the ring and doing that.
Nate, Samoa Joe knows better than this. This is another bad habit situation here. Mm-hmm. How you would let this empty-headed, what did he is empty-headed. Now, outside of wrestling, he actually is smart because he has a college degree and he was a teacher. Listen, two different walks of life, right? You could be smart outside the business, but inside the business, this guy's an idiot. So he go, okay, well, I'm going to bust you open in 3 minutes into the match. Joe be like, what? No, that's not how this goes. No, that's not happening. And here's another thing that was odd about the match, and maybe that's why guys started bleeding early, and it shouldn't have been, but regardless, the match was 14 minutes long, which is, I'm not saying every match needs to be 25, 30, but the main event normally is never that short. So that
especially on an AEW card.
Right. So that was surprising. And then you still have 8 minutes of time left on the clock because I just finished watching it. Yet this is a chore to watch. 4.5 hours. I can't watch it straight through. I can't. And then you're like, okay, well, what are they going to do for 8 minutes? And then all of a sudden you get this music and you get this happening. And then it's Swerve. And Swerve methodically walks to the ring like he's Roman Reigns. Like, oh, what's this? And you get Nana. By the way, listen, when you go away for as long as you do, right, with his injury, do something different. I love Nana. Nana, we know Nana since Ring of Honor days, man. He doesn't need to be doing the dance anymore. It just looks stupid now. It's overkill.
So Chris, what should he do? Walk to the ring with an Asian lady on the leash? Like, what do we?
Your uncle would approve that. Yo, Rich, if you were there with us in 2006 when Nana was doing that, your uncle was applauding. Yeah, put her.
I can only imagine the look on Uncle Triple C's face every single time that would happen. Good grief.
But you see, first thing, and here's what bothers me. We didn't even talk about the match itself and the finish and all the outside interference and you could say it's overbooked, whatever. But then you get to the point where you're like, they just told us everything about what Paige has done to get to this point to be champion. Why do you want to take it off of him? Why? We said this last week on the show where we were like, there's no way. I can't see a scenario where Joe wins. And then you learn during the week that this was planned for months that Joe was going to regain the title at some point, right? But why? So in essence, you're telling me now, unless Joe beats Swerve, because this looks like where we're heading, right? I mean, they kind of tease that. If Joe loses to Swerve, then he's just a transitional champion. What's the point of that? What's the point of that when you already have a good champion? I mean, in their eyes, I don't love Paige, but whatever. It works for their fan base, right?
Especially after the build that they gave him over the summer to get to that point to beat Moxley.
For me, I look at it like this. This should be time for one person and one person only to make a comeback. So that way you have a three-way stance for the title. That would be my thought process. And if, I see Pete shaking his head. Yes, I don't know if he's thinking who I'm thinking, but there's only one person that means, okay, look, he's coming back. And that's MJF. I feel that there's unfinished business there. There has been unfinished business there. we're looking at what pretty much damn near a 2-year stance from when MJF lost the title to Joe at World's End. And since then, MJF has still been trying to reclaim his spot back at the top of the mountain in AEW. For me, I'm sitting there looking at this like, well, if we're going to be getting Paige and Swerve back in the mix, and if Ospreay's out for a very long time,
what is his status?
Who else could be? From what I know, I think the surgery was successful, right?
Yeah, the surgery was successful. He's probably at least a year away.
I'm laughing. First of all, remind me of the surgery again, please.
Oh, wasn't it neck?
Right. No, it should be neck because he's dropping his neck every 5 seconds, so it makes sense. Forget about storyline. But I love when you said successful. Have you ever heard like an athlete or something? Unsuccessful surgery, 3 months to live. Like,
yeah. That would be interesting.
They botched it, Monsoon. Damn it, McMahon, they botched it. Like, can you just imagine Jesse Ventura on the call, or from your case, Chris Marvelver? Like,
oh Lord!
But
having a crowd go ahead, having the audience watching the live surgery, and then they saying you effed up, you effed up.
Nah, yeah, for a second though. I mean, even if he is coming back, and there is
yes,
right, but the way Swerve was presented in this moment, that they gave him 8 minutes to come to the ring, not only walk into the ring, then look at everybody, all of the ops, what do they call them? The students, right?
The ops dojo, yeah.
Dojo, excuse me. By the way, Hook turning, I mean, that makes sense. I don't know why he was ever not with Joe, right? Wasn't he with Joe?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
That made sense, but then Swerve taking out the whole dojo and how slow that went, and then they didn't need 8 minutes to do that. Let's be honest, that was long.
I think the 8 minutes was more to sell Swerve's new entrance music. I think that's what that was more about than anything else. To let people remember who Swerve was by letting him come into the ring slowly. But I think it was also to get his new ring music over. So that's probably what that was for.
You know what it reminded me of? You know what it reminded me of? Every single time when you sit there and possibly like, back in WWE, you're sitting there waiting for like, somebody to get saved from the Vision, and Jey Uso comes in and everybody just starts eating, and he's just slowly going ahead and like methodically trying to go ahead and like walk to the ring. And I'm just sitting there like, bro, just get to the ring already. Like, Jesus, like, what are we doing here? But again, still within the same sense, I'm glad to see Swerve back. Genuinely, there's no problem with that. For me, again, I just feel like, and beyond everything else, okay, I guess the history with Hangman is done. That's just out the window. Now it's just like, okay, we're cool.
I don't like how they hot-shotted this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
They could have taken this well into February, March at least, going into Double or Nothing. They could have stretched this out.
For sure. Not only that, though, but Hangman, doesn't he now deserve a rematch? But are you telling me now, based on the way that segment ended, the show ended rather, that he's not going to get a rematch? Because you don't want him to lose again, do you?
Yeah, and World's End is next month. So I'm pretty sure by then they'll figure something out. But now, even more so, how are they going to explain Swerve feels like he needs a rematch? Paige feels like he needs a rematch.
Three-way?
Now they're allies. How is that going to work as a dynamic as they start to build who gets the first crack or the second crack at Joe? And even more importantly, how long is Joe world champion?
There's so much to be told there. I guess that's our way of having to go ahead and sit through Dynamite next week and the week after. And fuck my life.
Wait. What transpired? Listen, I had a lot to watch this week. What transpired in Dynamite? What did Joe come out and say? What happened?
You're asking me? I'm gonna dim the lights.
Nate, what happened on Dynamite?
Basically, Joe talked about how great he is as a champ. He talked about the plan between himself and Hook, and the entire idea of Hook being jumped out of the ops was part of his plan. He basically called himself Sun Tzu, the art of using the art of war, so to speak, to be able to use that plan to go and win that championship. So that's pretty much where it came from. And then that's when you got the return at on Dynamite of you having Joe still talking and still talking. Then you had Paige come down to the ring with Swerve. They both had chains. He threw the ops in front of him to try to get them away from the rest of the ops, and then they just started hanging people. So it was kind of like a build that they did. Joe's plan, based on the way he explained it, was pretty decent, but at the same time, I just don't know why you just hot shot that so fast. So, and then you also, thinking about it, you're also going to have, I just remembered, Eddie Kingston also talking about wanting to get to a world title shot. And he talked about it on Collision because they did Collision the day after Dynamite, and he talked about how he wants to get a shot at Samoa Joe. So I think that's going to be very interesting with the way that dynamic is set up.
Yeah,
I mean, hi guys.
Are you back? You're stealing your uncle's gimmick? What's going on here?
Yeah, I had to dim the lights. I'm sorry, I ain't watched Dynamite. Who does? Let's just keep it $1.50. I'm sorry, but hey, man, all is well and love is war.
All right, so let's be fair here. We just gave AEW a good 20+ minutes here, so people should be happy with that, right? I mean,
yeah. Hey, come on, give us a round of applause. I think we deserve one. Come on.
And remember, the Continental Classic started, which was the main reason why I watched Dynamite, because Dynamite and Collision was because of the tournament. So it's starting up. We'll see how it goes going forward, but there usually are going to be some pretty decent matches as the tournament rolls around.
But peeps, let's talk about this though. Okada showing up, because I saw a clip of this. Okada showing up with the international title. It's like,
yeah. I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
So you guys merged the title into the United title. That's off the screen since All in Texas, just for the Continental Classic to come around, and because Okada, I get it, has to give back the title, or like whatever you want to call it. Now he shows up with the international. How does that? I digress.
There you go. First one of the day. Yeah.
Wait, what is it? 2 steps forward, 3 steps backward?
You unify 3 belts only to have one of the 3 defended? That doesn't make any sense, because we thought that was the problem that they were going to do. If the thought process, exactly. If the thought process was going to be, we're going to consolidate championships so that if we do the Continental Classic, one championship is going to be defended, which is all 3. I don't even have a problem with whoever wins walking around with 3 belts, because it's a unified championship. That's what's supposed to be the case. They just took one of the 3 belts that is around the shoulders, waist, so to speak, of Okada, and just plopped it right there, saying that championship is still there. So if Okada loses this tournament, whoever wins is going to be the Continental champ. Then what did they unify then? Because the only unification that was there was the Continental Championship and the International Championship. So if that's the case and Okada loses, then he's just the International Champion. What does that do to a unified? I'm digressing on this.
I saw Corey Rushman saying that we're going to get Kingston against Joe at Winter is Coming. Here's the problem with Kingston. When you see him in small doses, he's not bad. But when you get a lot of Kingston, you see all the flaws. You see all the things that make him look indie. And he becomes like an old school All Japan cosplay wrestler. And he always wants to, if it's paying homage is one thing, but he goes over the top where he actually believes he's as good as those guys. And it's hard to watch because he's not
All Japan strong style. That's his.
Well, actually, that would be King's Road. All Japan was King's Road.
King's Road, yeah.
Right. And he's not anything close to the legends that we watch, Kobashi and Misawa and everyone else that I'm forgetting right now. But
yeah.
I mean, yes. Legends, true legends, not Eddie Kingston. I'm sorry.
Hardly agree on that one, Chris. Well, look, from there, we'll go ahead and leave Full Gear aside. I think that's enough digressing and enough, good talk about AEW for one day. We move from the world of AEW to the world of legends. Let's talk about Flair's remarks on Hulk Hogan. Oh, peeps, don't start sighing now. Don't start sighing now.
Let's say, we have to say it with a question. Woo?
But I don't know. I know you guys had to be preview to this, but of course, Flair has went ahead and made certain remarks, and he said street drugs are responsible for Hulk Hogan's death.
Yes.
I'll let you guys take this one because I want to get into the one in a couple of minutes. So look, you guys take care of this one. Chris, what's your thoughts? Because I want to leave peace for last.
Well, the thing is, why say this, right? I mean, what's the point of this? Why? I mean, no matter how he died, you just piling on. But I was thinking about in terms of wrestlers with street drugs and how it ruined their careers this time. If it killed Hogan, it killed him. But JYD, we talk about the legend of JYD and how great he was in Mid-South. And then you learn stuff in like 1984 at his peak, even 83, before he went to WWF at the time. This dude was literally in Louisiana projects smoking crack before shows, which is insane to think about that. Like JYD, that's what he was doing because he just couldn't kick the habit. And, street drugs are serious, you know what I mean? And to be fair, for those who haven't, you should try it sometime because, crack is amazing. It's
oh my goodness.
It's a life-changing experience. And
Where's the disclaimer? Where's the disclaimer?
I know.
Yes, phenomenal one. You got to flash the disclaimer on the screen. There you go.
You, Chris.
Remember, do not let your children watch the show.
Don't let your kids watch this show no more. It's no longer PG. Forget it. I'm letting you know now.
Nate, cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Oh, brother. But
what are your thoughts on this?
I'll tell you this. First off, I understand what Flair, his thought process was. He thinks that because of you can only be prescribed so many medications for pain based on the 11 surgeries that Hogan has had in the last few years, mostly on his back. He had, I believe, 2 knee replacements. I believe he had a hip replacement surgery also. His health was not great in his last couple of years. And I think Flair in his mind is probably talking out loud, thinking out loud, and thinking that maybe Hogan might have used something to kind of take the edge off of whatever pain he was in. Now, to give Flair the benefit of the doubt from this sense, he did kind of recant where he was coming from and was trying to provide proper context to what he was saying. I'm not trying to say that that's what he was doing, but I would imagine that based on the fact that he's had all of these illnesses and he's had all of these surgeries and the pain that he was in, maybe that's what he was doing. But the problem is you can't just openly say something like that and just accuse somebody of something without any kind of verification of saying, well, maybe I thought, maybe I knew it. That's a dangerous accusation to make, especially if you claim that you were friends of his going back 20, 30 years in the business. And then to make something like that, a flippant comment, that's dangerous. And rightfully so for a lot of people on social media, they came after Flair. So Flair really had to kind of recant that and back up what he was saying.
Has Hogan's family come after Flair too?
I didn't hear anything from anybody in Hogan's family saying anything. I don't know if anybody in Flair's family said anything about it. I think a lot of people, not to say it's Nate being Nate, I don't know if that's the mindset. You have to watch what you say, especially on social media.
I agree. Well,
you just can't.
Speaking of social media, we'll move away from this. Move away from this, and we'll move to the world of the main roster currently. Good news over the Thanksgiving holiday because 2 WWE certain stars destined for greatness sooner or later within the next couple of years have been engaged. Lash Legend and Trick Willie are finally engaged. Sooner, probably later, probably tied a knot in the next couple of years. But hey, it happened. Look, oh well, Trick Willie probably do got the sauce. What can we say about that? Congratulations to him indeed.
Congrats
That's
to
in
this
other
guy.
words. But of course, I guess we have to talk about this individual from there because he just divorced and he's probably out for a year. Andrade. Yeah, perfect way to chime into this. Andrade's interview, he went ahead and has now stated the problem with WWE, went ahead and, of course, was married to Charlotte, was in AEW, decided to be where his wife was at, went ahead and merged over. They got divorced. He had some problems within their wellness policy because there were certain things that he was taking back in Mexico and CMLL. And of course, those certain prescriptions and whatever the case may be weren't going to slide being a part of WWE. They went ahead and took him out for a little bit. He just didn't want to be there no more, so he decided to leave. The one problem was that because him and his ex-wife had the same lawyer, I guess the lawyer didn't read over his contract to see that there was a 12-month clause in the contract. And of course, Andrade signs it. He goes ahead and leaves thinking that, okay, look, after a couple of weeks, I'll be fine anyway. Yes or no, bam, shows up on AEW television. WWE goes ahead and, marks that down, whatever the case may be. But from what we hear, they have now agreed on a 90-day clause, which is good. But now we have to sit there and think what happens to the others, like Samantha Irving, like Rich Holland, so to say, and, anybody else that may be suffering it or the same effect. Peeps, what do you think about this?
We vehemently hated the whole idea of the non-compete clauses in the first place. And if anybody was to take any of these cases to court, I'm pretty sure that they would probably win against that idea behind that. You can't call somebody an independent contractor and then stick them to a contract and expect them to wrestle like a contracted wrestler. And this is the kind of thing that is the business part of the WWE and all of pro wrestling that stinks. Because if you don't want somebody there, why stifle who they are on their way out? It's one thing if you're going to have a wrestler put others over on the way out, as they would say, the time-honored tradition that I'm going to put guys over while I'm on the way out. But to hold somebody hostage for a year while their stock completely drops and they have no way of competing or making any money in that business outside of the money that's agreed to from the last part of their contract, I think is rather unlawful. But that's neither here nor there. I'm glad that they're negotiating this. He'll be back in AEW probably sooner than later. Thank goodness.
I can most definitely agree with that. Chris?
Well, I'll be quick here. The only issue with that is if you have a contract presented to you and you're not reading the whole thing or having your lawyer not read the whole thing, that's an issue. And as I talked about on the show previously, Lance Storm had mentioned about his 1 year no compete all the way pre-pandemic. So it's been in there forever.
Yes.
So that's on these guys. And I don't know what a judge would actually do if they decided to sue, considering it is in the contract. If anything, they could rule it as that's just absurd that you can't allow somebody to make money after that situation. So that's all.
Yes.
I agree. Well, that was great. That was definitely great.
Thank you, Tony.
Hi, guys.
Look, y'all hear the music playing in the background. I got to go ahead and sit here and jam out for a bit because, of course, this song holds a special place in my heart. I don't know if it holds one in the heart of Vince McMahon, of course. But, look, we're going to go ahead and sit here and talk about something very, very good. Bret Hart's remarks. Now, this comes, of course, on the 26th anniversary, 27th probably, damn near close, but anniversary of Shawn Michaels screwing Bret Hart in Montreal after Survivor Series of 97 to win the WWF title. Of course, the Montreal screw job, something big, something prominent within the world of professional wrestling. Bret had something to say over this week in which ties into something that you guys may have been fond of hearing on AOL or any wrestling forum back in the 90s. Whatever you guys used back then, back when you had to go ahead and call on the phone so that when the internet could start up before you touched the computer, whatever you guys did. But the rumor that Shawn and Vince were lovers. Bret had something to say along the lines of the fact that Shawn was so envious of me that he had to sleep with Vince to get to the top. There have been legends, other people within the world of wrestling that were around during that time that have said that BRET is bitter, from the likes of Eric Bischoff, who said something like that over the weekend.
You think?
Tim Ross has said that BRET is envious. A lot of other people had a lot of things to say.
Wait, Rich, you mean Jim Ross took time out of his day of hating black people to say something bitter?
Other than making his world famous "Not Black People Love Barbecue Sauce," yes.
Right.
But
that's a story in and of itself too.
In and of itself for another time, right? The man went to school. The man went to school with Jerry Jones. So look, forget it. I digress. But beyond all else, what do you guys think of this? Peeps, we'll start with you.
I've stated this before when the story broke, and we talked about this. I said the more that I hear Bret Hart make remarks, the more I dislike him, because I give him, in a lot of instances, the benefit of the doubt based on how great he was, and I usually allow the greatness of his in-ring work, his psychology, and his belief in his own character to basically permeate the air. I was not expecting for the stink of his opinions to permeate the air. And he comes across, as I told you guys, of Grandpa Simpson yelling at a cloud going, "Arr!" It is the most repugnant, ridiculous, anger-inducing things that you can hear him say. And it seems like every time he opens his mouth, he has something new that is either angry, hate-filled, or denigratory. I don't know where it's coming from. We know the people that are on his hit list, so to speak, him being the hitman. We know he hates Triple H with a passion. We know this.
He's not alone in that.
Yes, there are a lot of people on that list, but definitely, I believe he's probably at the top of that list. If he's not at the top, he's definitely maybe 1A or 1B. He definitely has no love lost for Vince. And although it seems like Shawn Michaels and Bret kind of bury the hatchet, we remember the Monday Night Raw where they were on TV and shook hands and sort of buried the hatchet. It makes you wonder, how far was the hatchet buried? Was it buried so that they can move on? Or was it buried in Shawn Michaels' back so that he could continue to denigrate him every chance he got? It doesn't make any sense. It's not a good look. And if Bret Hart's worried about what his in-ring, out-of-ring, whatever he thinks his reputation is going to be, he continues to soil and tarnish whatever is left based on how angry he is at the business, including the people and the proponents that were involved in his screw job exit from WWF at the time.
Rich, keep dancing. I'm enjoying that. Yeah, let's see it. Give me the
Yo, you guys have to be doing this if you don't fuck you up. Look, again, this song is synonymous with my childhood, okay? I'm sorry.
Yes.
So, as bitter as Bret is, people have mentioned this in the past, okay? This is not the first time people have suggested that Shawn and Vince had something more than that kind of relationship, okay? And let's be fair, you mentioned Survivor Series Screwjob. That night, maybe Bret wasn't the only guy that Shawn screwed.
Oh, boy.
We don't know what happened later on that night. I mean, could you imagine, like, Vince, come here, Shawn. I love the way you look in those tights. Yeah.
Show me who's a sexy boy. I tell you.
So I got a Jannetty story for you. And again,
boy, what a segue.
Only had one way.
Chris, that was a perfect segue.
A Jannetty story. What better way to end this segment? Oh,
as warning, I'm taking my sip of water now before the story happens so I don't spit all over the camera.
So
go ahead.
He's bitter, right? Now, Jannetty, who's known to embellish, if you will,
yes.
Everything Jannetty says is with a grain of salt. I don't know when the story came out. I want to say late 90s, early 2000s, maybe on one of those U shoots or one of those RF video shoots. Jannetty actually claims that in the late 80s, he walked into a hotel room where Shawn was staying. Brace yourself. Shawn was in there with a live goat.
Yes, I remember hearing this story.
You've heard this story too. Okay.
Yes.
So, for those who haven't experienced the goat, just like crack, give it a try. It's amazing. Okay. All right. Especially if you get them on a ledge. You got to bring them up somewhere high on a mountaintop. That's how it works best. But anyway, no. So, if you want to believe that, listen, people, I know for a fact, okay, this is actually a true story. When I was at Hofstra University, the football team got busted because they had a freshman at a beach with goats. Okay, so that happened for real. So for me to say that HBK cannot entertain goats, who knows?
Notice how it says entertain goats. That's sports entertainment with a goat.
And you know what's the worst part about this? Goats have rights, damn it. You know that goat is into that.
Well, not as pulling the they have rights, damn it card. Oh, jeez. Oh, damn it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Saturday afternoon's main event. Of course, I'm a phenomenal one. Alongside me, the Pew Snakes. Down below is Mr. 4-on-1. We're here to give you laughs, good times, and all the rest of it is possible. This marks the end of 3-rope talk today. That was a successful one. Chris, we love you, bud. Peeps, give us the rating so that way we can segue into what else we got left for today's show.
I got some funny news for you. The only ratings that you're going to get are from SmackDown and last week's Raw because they still have not uploaded AEW or NXT's ratings for the week. Wow. Probably because of the Thanksgiving holiday. But what I will give you is that SmackDown, they won the ratings against themselves. Okay. They got 100. They got 1.21 million viewers with a 0.29 in the demo, compared to last week where they did 1.15 million. So they actually got a slight increase going in.
Did you hear what Russo said about the ratings recently?
No, what did he say?
Russo's been everywhere, by the way. He's been interviewed by so many people. I don't know why people are still interviewing him, but he was like, if those ratings happened in the 90s, bro, somebody would have been fired. Yeah. How this show ever gets below or near 1 million is a joke, bro.
I mean, the ratings.
Yeah. Meanwhile, all of the wrestling that we were watching back then, where they were averaging between two shows about 10 million a week. So for him to even go ahead and say something like that, thank you, Captain Obvious.
Well, no. But in all fairness, as much of a nut job as he is and a clown, when we talk about the ratings, when they took a major dip during the pandemic, and Heyman was creatively in charge, and Vince let him run the show, and the ratings fell. I want to say the ratings were around 1.6, 1.7 after consistently being 2 million. And of course, Cole played a part in that. But Vince immediately pulled the plug on Heyman and went back to him running the show. If you think about 1.6, 1.7, now we're at 1.1. Granted, new Nielsen rating, we know the whole thing is flipped upside down. But a little problem there with the viewership. Let's be honest.
And it's interesting that time that Heyman was running Raw for, I think it was for a couple of months, Bischoff was hired to run SmackDown.
Right.
And he was let go before he even had any input on the product.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. It was like the week he was supposed to actually do something, I believe Eric said he wasn't ready to kind of implement certain storylines and things that he wanted to do. He didn't even get a chance. He was let go before he could even start anything.
Ain't that something?
Yeah. Go figure.
Well, look, from there, it marks the end of the ratings portion. Look, let's go ahead and get straight into the question of the day for today's show. So that way we can go ahead and segue into our predictions for tonight's Survivor Series. The question of the day is actually a live question.
Okay.
Funny enough. And it's coming from Jadinator Productions. He says this. My question for the day, on a scale of 1 to 10, how disappointed were you when you found out The Miz was the mystery opponent? By the way, where's the uncle? Because he knows that Dom will get a lesson once again. And by the way, Nate, if you've seen matches on DVD, what's the best one you've seen on DVD? You do understand this man has literally heard matches on a xenophone? Are we keeping it like, yo, Peeps was the progenitor of the telephone. Forget an Alexander Graham Bell, okay? They should have called it Nate South, okay?
There
That
you
would have
go.
had a better ring to it. What's a Bell South? Anywho.
Patent pending.
What about VHS and Beta? There's been other ways to watch.
Yes.
Jeez,
Oh,
but what?
Yes.
Then again, we got to give this kid credit. Look, he's a millennial. Okay,
Okay.
so hey,
Millennial might be a Gen Z. Who knows? Hey, wait.
Okay, yeah, I'll say Gen Z. I'll say, look, I'm a millennial. I was closer to the end of VHS. Okay?
On the cusp. Yes.
On the cusp of DVD, and then I got to be able to experience digital. But you know, he's more DVD and digital. So
yes,
you know, I got to give him that. But look, in all fairness, Peeps, what's the best match you've seen on, you know, old ways of watching television? Because I know it has to be a whole. Look, you were in the tape trading days alongside Mr. 411. So
yes.
I have to say, what's the best match you've seen on
the
tape?
Majority of the great stuff that I watched came out of the NWA. And being somebody from the Northeast, saying that's huge. Growing up and watching stuff in the 80s and looking at the wrestling that if you were in the Northeast, it was all WWF. I was lucky enough to be able to say I got to watch WWF, the AWA, to watch the NWA and Crockett, the UWF. I was able to watch all of that. To be able to pull one match that might have been on DVD or Blu-ray, whatever, chances are any of those matches that I saw were matches that I had already seen either on TV or matches that were showed up in some sort of a collection. And ironically, one of the ones that I've watched recently because of the implications of what's going to happen tonight was the War Games, was what I was watching. The first War Games match when the WWE actually used to do DVDs and Blu-rays before they got rid of them a few years ago, and was watching the first War Games match. The way that fell and the way that it was great. There are so many other matches that are there. We'll be here for another 3 or 4 hours, but we don't have that kind of time.
Okay, so pretty much I have to ask Peeps, was it the one at the Omni or the one at the Orange Bowl?
The one at the Omni will always be the best War Games because it was the first, it was unseen, and it was as violent as you could get, and it had implications that further went in, connected to everybody in that match. The main storyline in that entire match was what the Horsemen did to hurt Nikita Koloff so that Lex Luger, who had just joined the Horsemen earlier in the year, could win his United States Championship. And that's basically what they used that for.
Okay. Oh, I know real quick, Dom just got mentioned in that. How great was it? Because I just watched the highlights. I didn't get a chance to see all of Raw. But how great was the segment? I wish Uncle was on to talk about this segment with Dom and Mini Cena and what he did to him. And I know Uncle would be so proud of Dom's actions towards this little person.
The best part of the segment was Stu. John Cena's cameraman, Stu. You're right, Stu. You know who it is? And they bring out Mini Stu on. Oh, it was well done. It was well done. Yes.
It was him trying to get into the ring for me. But
yes.
Beyond that, if I had to answer that question,
when he kicked him, that was hilarious.
Yes. The way he sold the kick.
By the way, if you have not kicked a midget, I strongly advise trying it.
What is this now? New Olympic sport now?
Yes, yo. I'd rather fling a midget, but okay. I think kicking one can.
Oh, they weigh a lot. They're pretty sturdy. Think about it. They're not hard. They're not. You know.
Wait, they do?
They weigh a lot. Oh yeah.
By the way, if you're into little people in wrestling, watch WrestleMania 3. Watch Lord Littlebrook get elbowed by King Kong Bundy, which I don't think I've ever heard 90,000 people laugh at the exact same time. That was the first.
Jeez. Oh, geez. Well, look, from there, we'll go ahead and say to Jadinator, thank you for the question, man.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
What a show this is.
Yes.
It's been something today, hasn't it, gentlemen?
Yes.
But we have gotten to the final part of our show today, which is, of course, our predictions for tonight's Survivor Series match. Well, premium live event, I should say. But look, War Games, it should be a great show. It's a 4-match card. what is left for us to go ahead and do here, right? It's just go ahead and name what the matches are, pick our people, and go from there. So it shouldn't be much, right? Let's go ahead and get started with this. Look, again, 4-match card. We're gonna go ahead and start with the 4th match on the bottom. Valkyria versus Nikki Bella, singles match for the women's world title. On a serious note, are we supposed to be taking Nikki Bella on this? Come on, I know we're not going to be doing that. So I'll start the train here. I'm going to say Valkyria.
Oh, you're going to run a train on Nikki Bella?
I knew the second he said that.
I knew he was going to say something dumb as this, yo. Ah, jeez. Let me stop. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
Yes.
But again, I got Valkyria here.
Yes, there you go. Valkyria wins.
Yeah,
Unanimous, indeed. Singles match for the WWE Intercontinental Champion. John Cena versus the Triple C's boy, the greatest Triple A Mega Campeon.
North American
champion, Dominic Mysterio.
My boy.
What a champion! Jeez. Give me John Cena to retain. I would have wanted to go with Dom, but I'm sitting here looking at it like, what better way than to have Saturday night's main event close with John Cena defending the Intercontinental title against Gunther, who is the longest reigning Intercontinental champion.
That's his music back. How's his music back?
Yes.
Oh, talk about it.
Yes.
And the people were chanting vault. You can't.
Yes.
You can't make this up. Just give him the name back too. I second it.
Yes.
But peeps, are you along the lines thinking that Dominic Mysterio is going to win here?
I have that feeling that Cena's going to retain. Although, if they did something like this, let's say, just for the argument's sake, that Cena lost his championship, and it plays into Dominic winning, you make this Cena match the first match on the show. The reason why I say that, and we talked about this off air, maybe he could factor into that War Games main event match somehow.
Okay.
As a treat for the fans.
I agree. I know we were talking about this earlier. Indeed.
Yes.
And probably have Jimmy Uso go down and John Cena takes Jimmy Uso's place. I would love that. Genuinely, I'm not opposed to that kind of idea.
Yes.
But yeah.
And then you also would give Dominic Mysterio, who's from the San Diego area, you give him the big props of winning a championship in front of the home fans, and those fans will be happy to see Dominic win.
Oh, by the way, I just happened to see last night on SmackDown on the bottom line saying that tickets are still available. Now, granted, it's a big house because I know they're doing 30,000 plus, right?
43,000. I think they can do. I think they've got 40,000.
They already have 41K.
Okay, so they keep increasing capacity. I hadn't seen the number in a while, so I thought it was still in the 30s. All right, I stand corrected on that. But what there's been a press release talking about the tickets that still are available based on the prices of the tickets. WWE is willing to accept white babies as currency. Yes, so have a white baby not on the market. You can enter Survivor Series tonight with a white baby. Because as you know, TKO is all about human trafficking. Are we going to get a cease and desist over that one?
Somehow, I don't think Triple H is going to be knocking down our doors to try to get any wrestlers from their company.
Nick Khan is about to kill me, yo. Like, yo, thanks a lot, guys. Like, jeez. Oh, Lord. But
there you go.
From there, we're moving to the women's War Games match. Give me Team Ripley.
Yeah.
I'm
thinking that also. I think that
happy is that the deal here. Let me see. Is there any turn coming? Do you see a turn in this match, or everything is going to go as planned?
Unless Becky is so overbearing in the match that she costs them.
Okay.
And at the end, they all just leave Becky in the ring by herself. Not to say that would be a turn per se, but Becky and her her ego, could cost them the match. And I can actually see that being a sticking point as a story beat within the match. I think this is this will probably be the most intriguing of the two based on that storyline itself.
Did you guys hear what Becky Lynch did on Twitter, or X rather, regarding her championship title loss to Maxine Dupree regarding AJ Lee? Are you privy to this?
No.
So she goes on X in full heel character. This is brilliant, by the way. So brilliant. She talked about the State Athletic Commission and how AJ Lee did not have a manager's license and that she should be allowed to get her title back as a result of that, which is just a brilliant usage of X when so many people are just being marks on there for themselves. She's actually using something that is legit in the wrestling business, the State Athletic Commission. You just don't hear about it anymore.
Yes.
That was insane for her to use. I love that. I
remember from all of those folks that watched the WWE from during the Vince regime that Kevin Dunn did not like Becky Lynch because he didn't like her accent. Imagine if he would have gotten his wish, we would have been robbed of all of the great things that Becky Lynch has been doing over the last decade.
Wow.
Think about that.
I'm here to report to you guys real quick. Corey Richmond has just went ahead and reported to us that the current setup is 44,667, and there are about 500 remaining from a sellout.
Hey, white babies, let's go.
So anybody in San Diego in need of a filler spot just so they hit the number, I guess you could just go head down to Petco Park right now. But thank you for that insight, Corey. Of course, the last match, the men's War Games match. Punk, Cody, Usos, Roman versus the Vision in Braun and Bronson, Logan Paul, Drew McIntyre, and Brock Lesnar. Give me the Vision to win.
Really? Oh, so everyone's not going home happy. Okay, interesting.
Nah. I really feel like something is going to happen within this match because I feel like, look at it this way. The men in the WrestleMania poster for next year, Roman, Cody, Punk, and Brock are all in this match. I feel like because this is the final PLE before we head into WrestleMania season with the Rumble, Chamber, and then, of course, Mania, this will have major implications into the setup for the main events of WrestleMania next year. So I feel like the only way that goes is if nobody goes home happy tonight. It shouldn't be no happy-go-lucky Cody's team wins. Nah, you want precision in this. You want precision in the storyline. You want heads to turn. Have there be a mad Cody Rhodes. Have there be a CM Punk at odds. Have Jimmy and Jey Uso be ashamed that they lost. Have Roman Reigns sit there knowing that he wasn't able to come into this match to do the one thing that he wanted to do, which was beat Paul Heyman at his own game. But they teased it. And sorry to cut you. They teased it just with Roman Reigns and what he said about that title looking good on your shoulder. And Punk going, "Are you talking to me?" And Roman going, "You figure it out."
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like in this case, something's going to happen with Roman and Punk.
Yeah, that's the dynamic of the story. That's the dynamic.
That's my end result.
Yeah, I think that's the best dynamic of the entire story, and I'm with you with that one. It makes the most sense, and it builds the most intrigue going in to the next couple of months.
Indeed.
If you're looking to shake things up and not have stale storytelling, have the Vision win, have something happen on that, and maybe have somebody on the quarterback's team with Cody leading, or if it's team CM Punk, whatever the name of the team is, have them wonder if there's any dissension within that group. Maybe one of these guys really is a friend of Heyman's. Maybe that's the case. Maybe one of the guys gets hurt and beat up during the match, and that costs them. That could be the case as well.
Indeed.
Oh, by the way, what did you think of the GOAT having that slip on Monday night and then getting right up? The Shockmaster moment. One of the shock. Yeah, that was good, right?
Oh man, the internet for the win. I mean, we've seen Sub-Zero throw ice underneath him. We've seen Sonic coins come out of him the second he slipped and fell on the stage.
The Sonic coin one always
Yes,
got me.
there was one that I saw with Wile E. Coyote hole opened up underneath him as he fell. He fell on the ground. Yeah, so the internet has really been working hard on this one.
You should see the AI ones where everybody starts to fall in the railings. Oh damn! Geez, I gotta stop. But look, with that being said, guys, that marks the end of our predictions for Survivor Series in about 3 hours. But this also marks our end for today's show. Look, beyond all else, I love today's show. This was great. This was perfect. Gentlemen, you guys always give me a run for my money. I appreciated the last hour and change. Look, we'll be back next week, guys, to kick off the first same of the month of December and the last 4 leading into the year. But, of course, tonight, guys, enjoy Survivor Series. Enjoy the next couple of shows leading into the week from Raw down to SmackDown. Dynamite. I know Uncle Triple C's dimming the lights on that one.
Hey, I have a question. Does Dave & Buster's or any chain show? Because I know they're now on the app. Will they show WWE or no? No one's showing.
Well, I believe so because they showed WrestlePalooza when I went to Dave & Buster's. Because if you remember, WrestlePalooza showed up the same day as an AEW pay-per-view, and I was able to watch both shows.
Really?
And as a matter of fact, it was the same day as All In. So, yeah. Was it All In or was it Forbidden Door? It was one of the AEW pay-per-views were on the same day. Yeah, for All In.
You're going to Dave & Buster's tonight to watch it?
Yes, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Dave & Buster's.
Okay. See, if Alabama wasn't playing Auburn at 7:30, I got a conflict because
I understand. Whereas I, being a Penn State fan, I've got nothing. So it is what it is.
And for me, we just beat Pittsburgh, and we might be in the college football playoffs. So let's.
No, you need a few people to lose, sir. You're not in yet.
Look. Beyond all else, I think we have a fair shot of getting in more than Notre Dame. Okay, let's just keep it $150 here.
Yes,
just keeping it for real. Come on, Chris. Look, you guys might have to deal with Georgia, so I don't want to hear nothing. Okay, let's keep it $150 here.
We already beat Georgia.
Hey, you think you're gonna do it again in the SEC title game if you guys end up making it? Come on.
We've beaten Georgia like 5 straight times.
I feel like there's something different this year. Genuinely, I feel like there's something different this year. Genuinely, but let's stop talking football. It's the end of the show. Guys, thank you for tuning in. This was Same where I, the phenomenal one.
And I, the Peeps Nate.
Oh, my name. That's right. Mr. Boom.
Sign in name. Yes.
John Hancock.
There you go. Yes. Where we came.
We saw.
And in the words of the great Paul Heyman.
Send us home, peeps. Send us
we conquered.
We conquered, ladies and gentlemen. See you next week for the next episode. The phenomenal one, Peeps Nate, Mr. 411. This was Same. Peace, love, farewell.